In this lesson, we are going to look at potential problems when you are collecting data. Suppose your friend asks you, who do you think will win the Western Hockey League playoffs? Well, what might make the given question difficult to answer? What if you don't like the WHL? What if you don't know anything about it? Maybe you live in Ontario, so you know nothing about Western Canada. Maybe you are not a hockey fan. It would be very difficult to answer that question. Suppose you were a fan of the Western Hockey League. What might affect your answer to this question? Well, do you like the same team every year? Do you live in a place where there is an actual WHL hockey team? Is your team still in the playoffs? Are you going to go with subjective judgment and pick your hometown team, or are you going to go with the statistics and pick the team that's doing the best? So there are some different things that would affect the collecting of the data. So there are several factors that might lead to problems with data collection. And remember, that's what we talked about in the last lesson. You need to be aware when you read statistics in the media that how did they do their data collection? How did they come up with those values? Because a lot of data can be collected inaccurately and presented in that particular person's best interest. One of the factors is a bias. So maybe the question influences responses in favor of or against the topic of the data collection. For example, suppose a person asks, "Don't you think the price of a movie ticket is too high?" By saying that, this person has already shown that they're biased against the current ticket price, and the bias might influence how the survey question is written. So the person asking this must think that the movie ticket prices are too high. Maybe you didn't, but when they ask it to you in that fashion, maybe you're more likely to agree with them. So there needs to be a better wording of this question. Maybe it's just, what do you think about the prices of movie tickets right now? That leaves it very open-ended. A person can say they're good, they're too high, they're too low, or something else. Leave it open-ended. Use of language. The use of language in a question could lead to people to give a particular answer. For example, don't you think the price of a movie ticket is too high? As we said, the question may lead people to answer yes. Again, another suggestion for a better question. Do you think the price of a movie ticket is too high, too low, or fair? So it's giving all of the three options. Or you could simply leave it open-ended about what do you think of the price of movie tickets? And then that will allow people to make their own choice. The timing. When do you collect the data? When you collect it could lead to particular results. For example, a survey is conducted to find opinions on the need for a vehicle to have winter tires. The results may be different if the survey is conducted in August instead of February. In August, there's typically no snow on the roads. People aren't thinking about driving on icy road conditions. So they might be more inclined to say, no, you don't need winter tires. Whereas if you're in February and you're driving on ice consistently and you ask the question then, maybe people are more inclined to say, yeah, winter tires would be really useful right about now. So you have to think about the timing of your question when you're collecting this data. Privacy. If the topic of the data collection is personal, a person may not want to participate or may give an untrue answer on purpose. Anonymous surveys may help in this matter. For example, people might not want to participate in a study on weight if it means stepping on a scale in front of other people. They might be very self-conscious about that. So you have to think about that. Are you going to get a truthful answer in the way that you are asking the question? Cultural sensitivity. This means that you are aware of other cultures. You must avoid being offensive and asking questions that do not apply to that culture. So suppose you wanted to know your favorite method of cooking ham and you asked, please circle your favorite method, barbecue, bake, fry. This question does not apply to everyone because many people do not eat ham. A better question would be, if you eat ham, name your favorite method of cooking it. Ethics. These dictate that collected data must not be used for purposes other than those told to the participants. Otherwise, your actions are considered unethical. So suppose you tell your classmates that you want to know their favorite snacks to help you plan your birthday party. If you then use the information to try to sell your classmates their favorite snacks between classes, your actions would be unethical. So if you state that you're collecting the data for one purpose, you can't turn around and use it for another. You have to think about the cost of collecting this data. So for example, if you need to pay for printing the questionnaires or to pay people to collect the data, the cost might be more than you can afford. And the time. Time is different from timing. Timing is when you ask the question. Time is the time needed for collecting the data. For example, a survey that takes an hour to complete may be too long for most people. This would limit the number of people willing to participate. So you have to think about that. And think about the surveys that you get for phone calls. When you ask, oh, it's a one-question survey. Okay, maybe not so bad. Oh, it might take you 15 minutes to complete. Most people are going to hang up on that. You've got to think about the time it's going to take. So the method used to collect data may affect the results. For example, which data collection method would get the most accurate results about the proportion of students in the school who wash their hands after using the washroom? Okay, so if you want to see how many people actually wash their hands after going to the washroom, would you get the best results by doing personal interviews, anonymous questionnaires, or observations? And what potential problems might occur with each method? Well, if you did personal interviews and you asked someone, hey, do you wash your hands after you go to the washroom? Most people aren't going to admit if they don't. Most people are going to say, yes, I do. An anonymous questionnaire. You might not survey the right population or the right sample of people. Maybe only some people will complete the questionnaire. However, this is where you are likely to get the most honest answers, because the person can say no and no one's going to know who it was. Observation. Observation might not be that bad. However, if someone is standing in the washroom watching, again, just like with the personal interviews, people may be more inclined to actually go wash their hands than what they would if no one was in the washroom. So probably your best, most honest data is going to come from the anonymous questionnaire. However, your problems run into whether or not you are going to get enough people to complete the questionnaire. So for each question, explain why a problem may occur and the effect it would have on the results. Suggest how each problem could be avoided. So a survey is conducted to find out if citizens think local government should provide more money for youth activities. But here's the question. Would you support an increase in taxes to create more skate parks? What's happening here? And there could be more than one answer. One of the things maybe you say is the use of language. Why, when they are looking at the government simply providing more money for youth activities, why does this question specify skate parks? There are more youth activities than just skate parks. The other thing, nowhere in the question did it say that there had to be an increase. It was just if the government should provide more money. So again, now the use of language. We're saying that in order for them to provide more money, we need to have an increase in taxes. Maybe the government could find some money elsewhere in the budget so there wouldn't be an increase in taxes. So the use of language is definitely a sticking point here. Possibly, the question could have been, do you think the government should provide more money for youth activities? If so, what are some possible youth activities you would like to see, and how should the government find the money to be provided? Leave it open-ended. Don't just specify that there's going to be an increase in taxes and that it's just going to be skate parks. You're going to get a very select few that are going to answer yes to this question as it was worded. So you need to think about those things as you word your questions. A survey is conducted to find out the level of school spirit. Students are polled about their level of school spirit after the soccer team wins the championship. Well, a potential problem here is in timing. If you're in a school that's full of school supporting soccer and everyone was just excited that the soccer team won, at this point in time your school spirit is on a high. And so people are going to probably be more inclined to talk about great school spirit right after a team has won a championship. You have to maybe try and find a time of year, maybe right at the start, right at the end, in an off season, and then ask what they feel about school spirit. Ask at a time when it's a little more neutral. Kublu and Ernique plan to open a shop in Saskatoon that would sell traditional Inuit crafts. To ensure Saskatoon is the best place for their business, they want to survey residents to find out how popular Inuit crafts are. Kublu knows that they would get the most accurate results if each household in Saskatoon is surveyed, but Ernique points out that this is problematic. Why? Well, time and cost are two things that we can think of right off the bat. To actually survey every household in Saskatoon would take a really long time. Not everybody is home at the same time. Does everybody have a telephone? A landline? Cell phone numbers aren't always listed. How do you know? Do you go door to door? If you go door to door, it's going to be incredibly time consuming and you have to find people who are home. If you mail out surveys to every household, how do you know that every household has come back and replied to the survey? So to actually survey every household, your time and your cost is going to be problematic. Antonia wants to find out if there is a relationship between household income and how much people spent on Christmas presents. Identify potential problems she may encounter and explain how she could deal with the problems. Well, one thing that comes to mind is cultural sensitivity. Not everyone celebrates Christmas. So you would have to be careful in how you worded the question, that you are only surveying people who actually celebrate Christmas. A second issue you might run into is privacy. Maybe people don't want everyone to know what their household income is. Maybe they are trying to keep that private and they don't feel it's your business to know how much you spend on Christmas presents. So there are some potential problems that she may encounter. So maybe she has to give ranges. And first of all, find out, do you celebrate Christmas? And if so, what percentage of your household income maybe is spent on presents? Or provide a range of amounts. So you need to think about that so that people don't feel threatened when they answer that question.